I'll be honest, I did not have high expectations for Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. It was slated for release late in the year, it was based on a property I didn't care much about, and it looked like another Ubisoft game. But on a tip from a friend, I decided to give it a shot, and I'm glad that I did. What's really interesting is that what makes this game great is that it's learned quite a few lessons from The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring. Let's get into it. If you've been following this stuff for a while, you'll remember that Elden Ring saw almost universal acclaim when it launched. I honestly don't know anyone who doesn't like it. But there were holdouts online. A few game developers, including a prominent Ubisoft UI designer, had some pointed criticisms of Elden Ring. Specifically, these devs felt that Elden Ring wasn't giving players enough guidance, because in the game there aren't any bright compass markers or light-up pathways showing you where to go. They worried that players would feel lost trying to find their way without any visual guides showing them where to go next. But as we know now, feeling lost is a big part of what made Elden Ring so amazing. Inspired by the minimalist design of Breath of the Wild, From Software's designers built Elden Ring's map so that players would be able to spot major landmarks from a long way off. If you climb up to the top of a ridge or tall tower, you can see mysterious places in the distance. Castles, swamps, giant golden trees. You pull out your hand-drawn map, figure out what you're looking at, and then chart out a theoretical course, knowing that you'll most likely get ganked by horrible monsters along the way. But maybe you'll meet a weirdo on the road with a story about a haunted mansion, or stumble into a catacomb, or find an elevator that leads deep, deep down into the underworld. The point is, you don't know. And it turns out, not knowing is fun. Now, contrast that with your average Ubisoft open world game from the past 10 years or so. Doesn't really matter which one you pick, they all share a basic template. There's a big map divided into sectors that you uncover by climbing radio towers or sync points. There's a list of main quest objectives and a bunch of optional low-stakes side activities to clear out in each zone. Most importantly for our immediate purposes, there's always a bunch of stuff on your screen telling you where to go next. Maybe that's a mini-map with a glowing objective, or a big marker in the on-screen compass, or maybe a list of objectives and quest progress markers on the side of the screen. None of these things are bad, necessarily. It's easy to see how they help players make sense of the game, especially if they're just jumping in after a long break. But together they battle for your attention like a bunch of rowdy kids in the back seat on a family vacation. Mama! They keep you from being able to settle into the world. They're immersion breaking. So does Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora flip the script on the Ubisoft formula? Well, no. A lot of the Ubisoft formula is still present in Frontiers of Pandora. There are still camps to clear out and repetitive activities to complete in each area of the map. However, it does pull back from the overly busy UI design to let the stunning world of the Western frontier take center stage. There's even an option, which you can flip on and off whenever you want, to remove almost all of the remaining quest guidance in the UI. It's called Exploration Mode, and I really love playing this way. With Exploration Mode enabled, I find that my attention stays focused on the world of Pandora. And it really does deserve to be the star of the show. Ubisoft is really good at making amazing natural landscapes, and Pandora's Western Frontier may be the most beautiful one they've ever done. Massive trees reach up into the jungle canopy high above, and giant root systems sprawl across the forest floor, providing natural highways for the Na'vi to use. At night, bioluminescent plants and animals light up the forest with eerie purples and greens. It's genuinely stunning. The coolest thing, though, is how this lack of distractions has changed how I play. When I first emerged from the RDA facility where my Na'vi character had been hibernating, all I saw was a dense alien jungle. It was a beautiful jungle, sure, but it was also intimidating. Where was I allowed to go? What was I allowed to do? There weren't any traditional trail markers or landmarks I could use to navigate. And so my first steps out into the world were cautious and tentative. I kept swinging my head around, wondering if a sound I'd just heard signaled danger. But now that I've spent hours and hours running through the forest and observing the plants and animals that live there, a kind of hidden geography has revealed itself to me. Remember those big roots I mentioned earlier? There are these little blue flowers that grow along these things, and they coat me in an energizing blue pollen that gives me a speed boost when I run over them. That makes the roots even more valuable as highways, but once I had identified those flowers, I started seeing them all over the forest floor. I know that I need to avoid these bulbous green pod things that explode if I get too close. I also know that the big waxy green leaves on certain trees can break my fall if I need to leap off a high cliff. And so it turns out there's a whole visual language, a biological one, that's guiding me through Pandora. I just had to learn what to look for, the same way I would in a real forest. Now, that's what I call good design. And it doesn't require any of the usual visual clutter that's normally so immersion breaking in Ubisoft's games. The level of immersion I experienced here is the reason why I've felt so much more invested in Frontiers of Pandora, and why it's a game I plan to continue playing. Oh, and if you're just about to start out, I highly recommend trying exploration mode first. You can always turn it off if it gets frustrating, but it's made my experience so much more special. And I hope Ubisoft continues offering immersive modes like this from now on. In the meantime, I'll see you in the woods.